You feel a sharp sting on your ankle. You probably just brushed against a thorny vine. You ignore it, take another step through the suffocating green, and keep going. But then, a few minutes later, a strange warmth begins to spread from that spot. A deep, relentless throb. You look down, and you don't see a scratch. You see two small, perfect puncture marks, already weeping a strange, pinkish fluid. In that single moment, you realize you didn't just make a mistake. You just started a timer on your own life. This is the true story of a man who faced one of the jungle's most perfect killing machines. Armed with a venom so horrific, it wages a war against your very blood. This isn't just a snakebite story. It's a terrifying countdown to zero in the most remote place on Earth. So hit that subscribe button, because the details of what this venom does to the human body are something you will never forget. And you must stay with us to the end to learn about the agonizing choice he had to make to survive. The Amazon rainforest. They call it the lungs of the planet. A sprawling emerald ocean of life covering nearly 3 million square miles. It's a world of vibrant macaws, elusive jaguars, and rivers that flow like arteries through a living, breathing continent. For biologists, adventurers, and dreamers, it is the ultimate frontier. But the Amazon has a darker side. For everything beautiful, there is something lethal. For every vibrant color, there is a perfect camouflage. It is a biological arms race that has been running for millions of years, and it has produced some of the most sophisticated and terrifying toxins known to science. It's a place that doesn't just tolerate mistakes, it punishes them with brutal efficiency. Our story is about a man who understood these dangers better than most. He wasn't a naive tourist. He was a seasoned field biologist, a man who had dedicated his life to studying the delicate ecosystems of the rainforest. Let's call him David. For David, the jungle wasn't an enemy. It was a cathedral of biodiversity. He knew which plants were safe to touch, which insects to avoid, and he knew to always watch where he put his feet. On this particular expedition, he was deep in a remote sector of the Peruvian Amazon, miles from any road, days from any real hospital. He and his small team, including a local guide named Marco, were documenting rare orchid species. The air was thick and heavy, like a wet blanket, filled with the constant, deafening hum of a billion insects. Every step was a struggle against clinging vines and mud that sucked at their boots. After a long day of trekking, they were making their way back to their primitive campsite. The light was beginning to fail, turning the jungle floor into a treacherous mosaic of deep shadows and fading green. Tired, focused on the path ahead, David stepped over a large, moss-covered log. As his boot landed on the other side, in the soft leaf litter, he felt that sharp, hot prick on his calf, just above his boot. He swore under his breath, thinking it was a fire ant or a stinging nettle. He paused for only a second, then pushed on, wanting to get back to camp before full darkness fell. It was Marco walking behind him who saw it. A flash of patterned brown and gray, melting back into the leaves. He shouted in a mix of Spanish and a local dialect. David stopped, confused. Marco rushed forward, his eyes wide with a fear that David had never seen in the man before. He pointed a shaking finger at David's leg. David rolled up his pant leg, and there they were. Two tiny dots, oozing blood. They were unmistakable, the calling card of a pit viper. And in this part of the world, that usually meant one thing: the Fer-de-Lance. If the jaguar is the king of the Amazon, the Fer-de-Lance, or Bothrops atrox, is its silent executioner. Its name means spearhead in French, and for good reason. It's a master of ambush, lying perfectly still for days, camouflaged flawlessly against the forest floor, waiting for something warm-blooded to pass by. It's responsible for more human deaths in the Americas than any other snake. And its venom. Its venom is a masterpiece of biological warfare. It's not a neurotoxin that shuts down your breathing in minutes. It's something far slower, and arguably far more horrific. It's a powerful hemotoxin. Its primary purpose is to destroy tissue and blood. The venom is a complex cocktail of enzymes and proteins that, upon entering your bloodstream, begins to systematically dismantle you from the inside out. It causes your blood cells to rupture. It prevents your blood from clotting. It literally begins to digest your flesh, your muscle, your bone, while you are still alive. David knew all of this. The moment he saw those two marks, a cold, clinical dread washed over him. A fear far worse than simple panic. He knew he was in a race, not against the snake, but against his own blood. Marco sprang into action. Panic was a luxury they couldn't afford. Using his radio, he sent out a frantic call to their base camp, relaying their position and the nature of the emergency. The response was grim. A boat could be sent upriver, but it would take at least 5 hours to reach the nearest extraction point. From there, it was another hour by boat to a tiny, remote clinic. A clinic that might or might not have the specific antivenom they needed. The clock was ticking. They had 6 hours. Maybe. The first 10 minutes were about first aid. They didn't use a tourniquet. That can concentrate the venom and cause more severe tissue damage. They kept David calm, his heart rate low and his leg immobilized. But soon, the venom's gruesome work became visible. The area around the bite began to swell at an alarming rate. The skin turned a dark, purplish red, and the pain. David would later describe it as a liquid fire being pumped directly into his leg. The journey to the riverbank was an agonizing ordeal. Every movement, every jostle sent waves of nausea and white-hot pain through him. By the time they reached the extraction point an hour later, his entire lower leg was twice its normal size. The skin stretched so tight it looked like it would burst. He was sweating, dizzy, and a metallic taste filled his mouth, a sign that he was beginning to bleed internally. When the rescue boat finally arrived, David was fading. He was slipping in and out of consciousness. The journey downriver was a fever dream, the jungle canopy a blurry green smear overhead, the constant thrum of the outboard motor a counterpoint to the frantic pounding in his chest. Marco kept talking to him, forcing him to stay awake, telling him stories of his village, anything to keep him tethered to the world. 4 hours later, they arrived at the clinic. It was little more than a single concrete building with a tin roof. The doctor, a weary-looking man who had seen everything the jungle could throw at a person, took one look at David's leg, now a grotesque black and weeping limb, and his face hardened. He confirmed their fears. It was a classic Fer-de-Lance bite, and it was bad. One of the worst he'd ever seen. He had anti-venom. It was their only chance. But the doctor gave a grave warning. The tissue damage was so extreme, so necrotic, that even if the anti-venom stopped the venom's systemic effects, he might still lose the leg. Or worse. The dead and dying tissue could release so many toxins into his system that it would cause total kidney failure. Lying on a cot, delirious with pain, David was presented with an impossible choice. They could administer massive doses of antivenom and hope for the best, or they could perform a field amputation right there, to remove the source of the poison. It was a hellish decision. A chance to save your leg but risk your life, or lose your leg to guarantee your life. Through a haze of pain, David made his choice. Try the antivenom. The next 24 hours were critical. They pumped vial after vial of the precious serum into his veins. It was a war being fought on a cellular level, the antibodies in the antivenom fighting to neutralize the destructive enzymes of the venom. David's body was ravaged by fever, his blood pressure plummeted. Several times his heart nearly gave out. He survived the night by the thinnest of margins. He woke up 2 days later. The first thing he noticed wasn't the pain, but the absence of that burning, expanding pressure. The swelling had started to go down. He was alive. He looked down at his leg. It was still there, horribly scarred, disfigured, but it was there. He had won the race. David survived, but he didn't escape unscathed. He spent months in a hospital, undergoing multiple surgeries to remove the dead tissue. He would never again have full use of his leg. He walked with a permanent limp, a constant physical reminder of that one misplaced step, of that one moment of inattention. He returned to the Amazon, but with a new, profound respect for its power, a respect born from the intimate knowledge of just how quickly the Emerald Paradise can become your emerald prison. If this incredible story of survival against all odds gripped you, please hit that like button. And for more true accounts from the razor's edge where humanity and nature collide, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.